Be here with you tonight. We have such an exciting topic. What I don't know if it's exciting, it's really informative. We have a great duo on with us to talk about a topic that I think puts us all in a tailspin. Parents, kids, everybody's in a tailspin right now over college. So we're gonna talk a lot about that tonight. But first, I want to mention our sponsor, My Girl Managed Services. If you own a business, you have to talk with Jen and her team because she gets you seen and picked and top of the list on Google. She makes sure that your social media is great and grooving and that your website actually attracts traffic. So make sure you check out My Girl Managed Services. Hi Sarah, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Holly. How are you tonight?
I'm actually great. It's been a beautiful day. Like
It
it's
has
like
been.
spring has sprung a little bit. I noticed as I was leaving my house today, I made my husband was off. He's rarely off on the weekends with me. So it was a big day. I made him leave the house, which he hates, on his day off. And we went
Mhm.
around to a couple markets and stuff. And I noticed when I was pulling out my driveway that the little shoots of my flowers by the end of my driveway are starting to pop out. So that
Yeah,
made me very happy.
up. So I'm so very happy about that. And
Hmm.
you're correct. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful today. It's just been a lovely day to be out and doing yard work. So, and that's what I was doing. But now we are going to be talking about careers, colleges, SATs, all that good stuff. Hi, folks. How are you tonight?
Good, thanks. Good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourselves and tell everyone what the name of your business is.
My name is Tom Geffers. I'm here with my wife, Maria Geffers, and the name of our company is Career and College Counselors. And basically, our background, my background is in finance and insurance products, many 25 years in the Pocono area. Maria's background is in teaching. She taught high school, mostly gifted students for more than 25 years locally here in East Stroudsburg and some other schools in the area. And our company is basically is in college planning, as the title says. And we are involved with many different organizations that are related to college planning, including the Pennsylvania Association for College Admissions Counselors. We keep abreast of everything that's changing, and it's changing quickly, especially this year. But the goal of our company is to help students and the parents basically find the right major for their student, and then that will lead into the right career path for the student and the right college, and to hopefully to get out in 4 years, because it's a disaster to be financially to be in college more than 4 years. So that's basically what we try to do. We have proprietary software that we use for the college list and some of the financial aid that we help parents with. Okay, but the thing I wanted to stress is it's never too early to start this process, and but it definitely can be too late. Okay, and we have a couple of stories about people who were too late, and it makes life so much easier if you try to start this process earlier. Is either a sophomore or a junior. Hopefully, is the ideal time to do this. Okay, and being in March, a lot of things are happening in March. If you're starting early, you're starting to do your taxes now. So if you're a junior in high school, your parents are doing their taxes. And it's important that they look at, what they are making as income, because what they making in 2021 will be used 2 years from now on the FAFSA forms. Okay, it's always prior year. They changed that a few years back. So in October of next year, the parents will be filling out taxes that they did in 2020. Okay, because the kids will be going to school in 2022. It's a little complicated when you just talk about it, but it's always 2 years prior to the year that they're going into the college, okay? So the other thing that's happening in March is students are getting their award letters, and the parents are really looking for the award letters because that's where all the bad news and sometimes good news is in, okay? And they usually come out, and the colleges send them out all out at the same time. Because no one gets a head start. It's amazing how they all talk to each other. There's 3,000 colleges in this country, and everything seems to happen at once, like they don't talk to each other. But these things come out in March or April, and they will tell you exactly, what the school is going to give you, including if there's any scholarships or grants or work study. And it's important to be able to read those correctly and compare one school against the other, hopefully, if you've done your homework.
Well, and one thing about FAFSA, it's a yearly process. It's not just like you get your kid into school and then, you worry about it again, like a car loan. I mean, they look at your tax records every year until they're out, and until they're, is it 25? Is it still 25 where they look at the parents' tax records?
Yeah, I mean, until the student becomes maybe an independent? Is that what you
Either,
got?
or I believe it's age 25, because my daughter was not living at home and in college in New York City, had been on her own since she was 18. But because she was not yet 25, they still had to look at my record.
Right, right. Well, that's true. And there's a couple of other things involved with being an independent, which I won't go into. But, it could be a military person who's in the military going back to school. There's a couple of different factors that they look at to make sure that, that someone's an independent. And we don't get involved in too many of those. We normally work with, the regular student who's coming through the system. Okay. But it could be a very, March and early April is a very
Daunting.
stressful time. And they don't give you much time to make that decision to choose a school, because this year it's May 3rd. So you have to send in your.
Wow. So we're close.
3rd.
We're very, very close. So in if students are going to school in the fall, at what point should they be in the process right now?
They're going to college in the fall. Well, they're pretty much done. I mean, the cake is pretty much baked, as we like to say, or don't like to say, to tell people. We get a lot of calls from people, all the time. What can you do for me now? And I said, well, there's not too much we can do. Right. I mean, the important thing you can do is to compare one school against the other. If you have 3 or 4 or 5 schools that you're looking at, and kind of negotiate. You mentioned earlier that, schools are giving out a lot of money, Moravian College and others are giving out a lot of money because they're looking to put people in those seats.
Right.
Very, very, very tough year. This year and going into next year is going to be a tough year for most colleges, especially the public schools. But, it's important just to be able to have the information to compare one school against the other. And also, I got a call a week or 2 ago from a woman who out in the Midwest she was, and she said she thinks she did the FAFSA wrong. And is there anything we can do about it? I said, well, not really. I mean, if you did it wrong, they should have notified you if there was something outrageously wrong on the FAFSA. But if you've submitted it and you're dealing with those numbers, there's not too much you can do at this point. So we were talking to her a little bit. And she said, well, I was taking care of my father a lot. He was a senior citizen and had a lot of medical problems. So I said, well, what you want to do is contact the school you're looking at, speak to the financial aid officer and say, hey, my father is close to being in a nursing home. We're taking care of him. We're spending money left and right. Is there anything you can do, for additional grant or scholarships that could, make it possible for, my son to go to your school? He wanted to be an engineer. So she said, I never thought of that. I said, thank you for that information. That's the first thing I'm going to do when I get off the phone with you is start that process. So there's little things you have to be aware of. And most people are just not aware of it.
Well, with Moravian College, when my daughter was entering into the college, my ex-husband and I had just separated, and there was a battle in the family, and they wanted to look, the other colleges wanted to look at both parents' income, and it was almost impossible to get that information from him. And Moravian was very gracious. They understood and they worked with me, which a lot of the colleges will do, but you have to really be upfront and honest with them about what your situation is. And from what I understand on the FAFSA, is it this year or is it next year where they're not going to be asking what the parental contribution is going to be?
Well, they're changing the FAFSA for the 2023 years, kids going into 2023.
Okay.
And they're going to be looking, similar to what you just said, they're going to be looking for the parents' both parents' income. They used to make it so if the child lived with one parent 50% of the time or more, that's the person that they would look at for financial aid. Now they're changing that because they need to go after more money. So now they're going to be saying, well, we're going to want to know where the other parent is. If he's making a ton of money, we want to, be able to get some of that for our tuition. So that's coming down the road. And, they're making these changes, and unbelievably, some of these changes were in that 5,000 page stimulus bill back in December. They have this stuff buried, everybody wants to, get what they want coming in all these different departments. So they put this stuff buried in there, and you don't really find out about it until weeks or months later. Okay. So, I mean, they also changed the EFC. They're not going to be calling it the EFC anymore. They're going to be calling it the Student Aid Index.
Right.
Make it a softer name, I guess, because people were getting, I don't know,
Children were upset that their parents weren't giving them enough money, and so this way it makes it so it's not the parents' fault. It really isn't their obligation. It makes it a little softer.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes it's just wording.
Do we really need softness though? Because like I when I did my FAFSA, we live in a house in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and we pay our bills, and my husband and I both have jobs, and filled out my little FAFSA and sent it in, and came back that we qualified for nothing. And my son is in between a public school and a private school. Well, the public school could give a crap, and he's going to have to basically take out a loan for the entire bill if he wants to go there. And the private school is saying, here's all this money, please come here. Where it might wind up that he will pay less if he picks the private school.
Right.
Out of pocket, which I never thought that would be the case. Like as a parent, I never thought that would be the case. I really always had in my head this illusion that public school, state-run schools would be cheaper. And I wasn't right. Who the heck knew?
Right.
And it's going to get worse for the people who are in the middle class and upper middle class going down the road. They're making, like I just said, going after the two parents, regardless of who's taking care of the child, and some other changes that they're making, and it's really geared towards getting more money from the middle class, upper middle class people, and the lower, not to get into politics or anything like that, but the lower class people, lower income people are going to be getting additional more money in Pell grants and other grants geared to the lower income families, which is okay, but the middle income people and the higher income people are going to be paying much more unless they know how to get around that. Okay.
I have had so many different meetings in the last 2 weeks, because we're meeting with admissions and financial aid at one school, and we're meeting with admissions and financial aid at the other school. And it's really funny because the other thing, I mean, it's private school, so I know it's private school, and I went there, so I have a lot of experience with Moravian College, but they're just so different in their approach about everything. Like the gal over at ESU said to me, well, you could go on a payment plan. I said, well, who in the house stops eating?
No,
the payment plan. Like who do we stop feeding for the next 4 years? Like, or do we not have electricity? Like what are the things we take off? I said, payment plan is not an option.
Right.
And she just kind of looked at me, and I'm like, let's join everybody in the real world. Most people don't have $16,000 that they can write a check out and hand it over to somebody. So kids are coming out of high school, and this is getting thrown in their laps, and they think that that's what their parents should shovel out for them. And they have no, I'm sorry, but it's even in 2021, kids have no concept of money. My son.
No.
Well, we believe, and a lot of people in that business believe, that the kid should always have some skin in the game.
Exactly.
And the student loans, you don't like to talk about it, but it's only 2.5% interest. I mean, it's cheap money. And everybody can get it. If you can fog a mirror, you can get the Stafford loans. They don't call them Stafford loans anymore. Now they call them direct loans. So again, they're changing the names and stuff. But if you can fog a mirror, you can get the student loans, and you can get like $27,500 over the 4 years. I mean, that's a lot of money. And Pennsylvania actually has the highest loans in the country that are outstanding for students. I think it's around $38,000 now.
Wow.
And when you think about it, it's, I sometimes I bring up on our seminars or whatever, that $38,000 is the price of a real good car today.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and the kids would buy a car in the drop of a hat, you know, and spend $500-600 a month in a payment to drive around the nicest car in the neighborhood, but they would not think about paying that kind of money for you know, their education. That's going to give them possibly $1 million you know, over their lifetime
Mhm.
than a high school graduate. Okay, and you know, you got to put things in perspective, but you know, that's a good and a good way to look at it. You know?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So you, the other part of what you do is you do counseling as far as careers.
Right. That's what I do. That's where I come into with my education and my experience. I've designed programs for gifted students and average students as well, and putting them and getting them ready for college, because that's very important. And as you know, one misstep can really put you back 2 years. So as Tom said, only 48% of the freshmen going into college are actually graduating. And most of them are taking 5 to 6 years for just getting out with the BA and BS. And that's 2 more years of loans, 2 more years of out of college, out of the job market.
Mhm.
And that adds up to, what did we say, about $100,000?
$100,000 mistake.
$100,000 mistake. And it can be avoided. It really can. So what I do is we help students find the right career. And the instrument that we use is called the Berkman. And it's been around for 65 years. It is phenomenally reliable and viable. It is a very, very powerful tool. And what's wonderful about it is it's actually a lifelong tool, if you will. Once you take it, the results are there. You know, you can use it and go back and forth and refer to it whenever you have a job change. And it's wonderful. It's 60 minutes online. Student takes it, I get it back, and we unpack the results. And what happens is it looks at interests, it looks at strengths, it looks at needs. And then with all of this combined, we come up with a career, usually 6 career fields. There are 20 career fields that are examined, and they give us the top 6. And from there, we really parse down and drill down and find out what is the best career for that student. Now, sometimes it's also great because I'm in front of parents and students as well as we unpack all this information. And it's very revealing to their personality, and it helps the student understand the parent, but it also helps the parent understand the student. And one of the most outstanding stories Tom and I always giggle over is we had a mom who called and we talked on the phone, and she had a son and a junior. And I said, well, what is he interested in? What is his field? And she said he really wanted to be an aeronautic engineer. And I said, okay, that's a great field. I'll look into that, and then we'll meet with your students, take the Berkman, I'll meet with him, and we'll unpack this whole thing. And when I did the Berkman, I looked at the results, and science was at the very, very bottom. That's the least career he should be in. And of course I said, oh no, this is terrible. It's hard because if the kid wanted to do the sciences and the results just don't match there. So when we got together, I introduced myself and we talked, we unpacked the Berkman, and I said, Bob, Mom says you wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. I said, what is it that you want to do? I'm nervous because science is not really up there for him. And he turned to his mother and said, Ma, what were you thinking? And the mother says, well, you love Star Trek and Star Wars, so I thought that's where you wanted to be. And, we all kind of laughed at it. And he actually liked legal and business and forensics. And so we did a whole career matching for him. We drilled down. We found a really good school for him. He was I think he wound up going to Hofstra in Long Island, which is a great program. Very good. And it was just a great experience that he was able to say, Ma, I want to do legal. This is what I want. So they were able to communicate. And that's important when you have a student. A lot of parents just assume they know their student very well. And kids are more apt to open up to a third party and kind of discuss these things. So that is a great program that we have. We have a lot of success with that. It helps narrow down some of the careers. The kids are 17, 18 years old. What do they know about life, really? You know,
Mhm.
come from a small town, it's very tiny little, exposure. So we get out, we open the world to them, and that's what's so exciting about it.
That's great. I know that, of course, we often talk about our families on here, and my daughter is currently, she'll be graduating a half a year early from Moravian and plans on going on to law school. She has actually been studying, I would say, for the last year to get ready for the LSATs. She
Mhm,
worked with a personal tutor, and
mhm.
she continues to do the LSAT classes that are, the tests and all of that. And, I anticipate that she's going to probably be able to go to whatever law school she chooses to go to. Probably not Harvard, but, I would say, one of the other schools. But not all students are that driven for careers. And
Right.
what do you tell a parent? What do you tell a student when they may have a career in mind, but they're just not dedicated to the belief of that?
Well, what we do is one of the students, we always ask, we were at a college fair one time, and a young girl came up and said, I want to be a pediatrician. And, first question I ask is, do you love science? Because you have to love it, you have to breathe it, you have to, it's your whole life when you're in college and you're a science. And she said, no, I don't like science at all. So I said, well, we need to look at, what it is about being a pediatrician. What is it that we can go into another career, if you will? It doesn't necessarily have to be college, like you said. It could be going to the community colleges and getting one of the licensing there, the associates. It's the Berkman actually does open up to all fields, both blue collar trades and the professional, if you will. So once we get the career field, the family, then we do the drilling down, and there's a list of careers that the student can look at, and we walk them through that whole process. You're right, not everybody is cut out to go to college, nor do they want to. I had
Mhm,
many gifted students who didn't want to go into college. They were
mhm.
more blessed with their hands. They were more mechanical. They were mechanical geniuses. They didn't need to go to college because they
Right.
loved doing this. So absolutely, what we do is we try to make sure that the student is in the right career for
Mhm.
them, not fitting mom's idea or grandma's or dad's, what
Right.
they will be successful at, where they'll be happiest doing. You want to wake up every morning and feel, there are mornings where none of us feel like rolling out of bed, but if you love your career and your job, it brings a step to a little more skip to your life and step. So it's important that you love what you do. And that's what we open up for the students. And we also then have the parent there at all times so that there is that communication. There's always communication between the parent, us, and the student. So it's a beautiful thing when it works so well. It really is.
What about a gap year? I hear a lot about that this year, especially because of COVID, and not only from the parents but from the students, because they're not sure what they want to do, or they've have felt lacking in this last year or so.
It's been a
Well,
tough year for
yeah,
these kids. Absolutely.
normally we never recommended a
Right.
gap year, just
Okay.
because they lose interest. I
Right.
mean, if you're coming out of school, you're kind of revved up to study and work. You take that year off, and you're doing something else, no matter what it is, you get out of that practice of, being a student,
Right.
and it's probably not a good thing for most people, but, COVID is a different situation, obviously. But we still think that, they should keep their fingers in it, whether
Right.
it's online courses or, taking what they think they might need.
Or community college.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just, keeping the label as a student. I think it's better.
Mhm.
Right. It gives that continuity. And the thing about it also is we have three kids ourselves, and one of my daughters had a friend who took that gap year, and what happens is they get used to having money,
Right.
and it seems, they're making a decent wage and they can buy their cars and live the life. And, they don't want to go back. I mean, college does require for most of us some kind of sacrifice as a student. You're not, most of us don't have that kind of money that we're just kind of out there. We're working, we're studying, we're saving money. And so I think that gap year can be a real danger for that money type of thing. I'm out here, I can buy new clothes, I can get a new car, I'm free. And then obviously when their peers graduate from college, then a lot of times they're left behind, if you will.
Mhm.
I don't think there's ever been a real good study on that, especially as Tom said with the COVID. I don't think there's any research on it. These are just what we've felt and what I've observed as an educator myself is that, the gap years sound good, let them go to Europe and experience life. Sounds good, but it can get them out of that whole cycle, if you will, of discipline.
And another thing we like to tell people or mention to them is, the reason why people drop out of college or don't graduate in that 4 year or even 6 years is that they change majors.
Right.
That's the
Right.
number one problem that will cause that to happen. And they'll run out of money because they change
Right.
majors. They're losing credits that they have to make up in a different major. And then eventually they just run out of money.
They have no money.
And they leave and they have 3 years of college or
Right.
whatever, and the loan, but no degree to show for it.
Right.
So it's so important.
That's a heartbreak when you see a student. We've had a student who come to us and has been in college for 3 years, and he ran out of money. He was in a community college and was there for 3 years. Very well put together. He was president of the student council, if you will. And he ran out of money because he was there for 3 years and he didn't even get his associate. So that is heartbreaking because he has nowhere to go now.
Right.
I mean, he's really blocked himself off.
I know that with my daughters, my one daughter did not know what she wanted to do necessarily. So I said, why don't you just take your core courses? And that way, at least you have the exposure of going to college and doing, the college work. But in the meantime, you can explore and see what is offered and that worked for her. She actually is now tomorrow taking her test to be for registered nurse. She's taking the state test tomorrow morning. So because she graduated in January for registered nurse. So, and then she will be going to Moravian for the advanced classes.
Yes.
She wants to be a midwife. I have to say, this is a girl that I would have never expected her to be a nurse because, things would make her not, her tummy kind of react if she saw blood or so she's really, I give her a lot of credit and I'm very proud of her for doing
it. And nurses will be in high demand. That's going to be one of the top, I just did a thing for 30 top careers that will be important in the next 10 years. And nursing is one of them. All nursing, whether it's a practitioner, whether it's a physician's assistant or a registered nurse, they're going to be in all high demand. So she's picked a great profession, not only for herself, but it will also have a great future. And that's important. That's one of the things that we do as well. So when we look at the career, we look at the positions that are there, we look at how viable this position is so that that this will be viable for the next 10 to 15 years. I mean, it's bright. It's not going to go it's not going to phase away. You know, that's
Mhm.
important. So, and you always have to be upgrading. I mean, our students usually know this time, you know, with this generation, if you will, that if they're in that process, they always have to be looking beyond it. They always have to be training. You know, it's not years ago,
That's
you went
right.
into a job, 25 years, you got your gold watch and out you go.
Right.
It's just constantly changing. And I think that's what's kind of wonderful about this generation is they're used to that change. They can
Mhm.
change very, very quickly, as we see for the computers, as we see for the online teaching. Many of them are really gravitating to it. And of
Mhm.
course, there are some that are not. I mean, they're just completely lost. But many of our students are actually gravitating. They love that independence, and that independence of choosing when they want to go on and when they want to go off. So it does create that discipline within them.
Yeah, that's great. So going forward, now we've got the students in college and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. What would you recommend for them? Would you recommend that they audit classes to see if that's something that they like? What would you suggest to somebody that really is lost and maybe hasn't taken the test with you, or they're going into college and they just don't know why they're going into college?
Well, I think what we do is, or someone like us. I mean, of course, I think our services are over the top, you know, but there are other places that they can certainly look for a career. The career offices are available in the colleges. Sometimes they're overwhelmed, and of course now a lot of them are online as well. But also looking and finding out what you want to do, what's your passion. And we deal with that as well, not so much in the student in college, but we look at, after we find the right career for the student, we then go in and create a portfolio, if you will. So the student actually does some self-exploration.
Oh,
They,
that's
yeah, they start looking at, the Berkman gives them the language, and the professional, we call it the passion project, actually gives them the practical how to put it together. And that is phenomenal because they actually go in and delve into who they are, their values is very important. And these are all things that college admission people are looking for and looking at. And as you know, if you've been following, University of California has gone test optional. And
right.
so California and Texas usually leads the way as to education trends. For better or for worse, this is what happens. And so some of the students have asked us, should we take the test, ACT and SAT? And Tom and I always say, yes, take the test. Better to have it and not need it, and not have it and need it. So that is something that we recommend. But what's happening is 11th and 10th grade students, their applications will no longer, they won't have SAT, or they won't be that optional piece. So what we do is we, again, look at their career, look at their values, create a project that actually says who they are. It will explore who they are. And that allows them to do a terrific letter of recommendation, because they'll be able to actually talk to the person and tell them what they want in their letter of recommendation. It will also help with their essay, because there are 3 types of essays that the colleges ask for. Who are you? You know, why do you want to come here? And what are you looking for? What did you do during this whole challenging time? So what we do is we have all of that in their passion project, and it's something for them to talk about. It's also an interview. We go through the college interviews. Again, they know themselves. They'll have all of this language, and it will be just coming out of them. I'm working with a 10th grader in Pleasant Valley right now. She came to us and she was kind of like 10th grade, and she had 1,001 careers that she was interested in. She took the Berkman and we did a career drilling down, and she combined all her loves, and we came out with pathology forensic pathology.
Wow.
A 10th grader, you know, who would think of this? But she loved science. She
Mhm.
took a forensics course in Pleasant Valley in one of her classes. She loved it. And what I was able to do is actually connect her to a real forensic pathologist, a student that I had in East Stroudsburg. And they talked all this kind of science stuff. I'm not a science person, but they talked all the science stuff, but it was a great connecting piece.
Mhm.
So now she has someone who's a practicing professional that she can ask questions for. And her passion project was to get a club going with all of her friends that love forensic sciences, and also go into the 7th and 8th grade and create experiments that they can use their technology and their knowledge of the method used for forensic pathology. So this is something that you can see her little face light up. She is just in love with this, and it's something that will make her different
Mhm.
than other kids. She'll be able to explain why she's doing it and how this is her passion. So those are things that we do that will actually help the students rise to the top, if you will, and it makes them shine, and it gives them confidence because they've accomplished something that is quite unique. And that's one of the things that we do.
And that's become very important in the last year. We mentioned the SAT and the ACT is optional now, pretty much across the country.
Right.
And some of the elite schools like Harvard and Yale, they want to see an SAT, even though they say, it's optional. Right. The ones who are gonna get in are gonna have good SAT scores and ACT scores, and they're gonna submit them. Okay, I don't care what they say about being optional. Okay, so schools like Harvard actually had like a 28% increase in their applications this year.
Really?
And the reason was they said the students are thinking it's test optional. Hey, maybe I can get into Harvard. I got a pretty good grade average. That's not going to be enough. So what this does is when you have these projects, these schools now, if they're only going to look at your average, let's say you have a 4.0, you have a great average. And you're in the band, you did this in the past, and you were on the glee club, you were on soccer team. But there's 40,000 high schools in this country. And everybody is going to apply, all of the football captains and the band leaders, they're all going to apply to Harvard. And they had actually, I think, just over 50,000 applications this year to Harvard. And, that's like filling up Yankee Stadium when you picture it. And I think they're going to accept about 5,000, which would fit into Stroudsburg Auditorium, So, that's the funnel that you're in.
Right.
And, the only way they can pick these kids is, well, what did you do that was special? So this passion project that Maria's talking about is pretty much in vogue right now with a lot of college planners. But you have to make sure it's just not a fake story, that it's something, you can test for.
Yeah. It's really amazing, actually, because, you hear stories and the popular idea is the more you do.
Right now.
The more you do, the more likely you'll be noticed. Isn't it more the case, the quality of what you do?
It's the depth. And that's what we go through with the students when they're doing their, we have different forms. And one of them is actually looking at the extracurricular activities that actually support your career. And that's important. You have to have the depth. You can't be, do it all. You need to be really, really cognizant of the depth of what you want to do. And then again, that's bringing in the Berkman, knowing where you're going so you get to where you want to go. Talking about that, my daughter was the majorette up in high school. The band leader. Well, yeah, the band leader. Okay. And I don't know the correct wording, but
drum major. Do they call them drum major in your
drum major? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So she was that, and she went to Westchester. She wasn't specializing in music, but she thought she would continue, in the band as a kind of a nice thing. And, of course, mom says to her, well, you should tell them that you were the drum major in the band. And she says, Mom, that's all they have. That's who is in the band. They're all. I said, oh, okay. You somehow think, you're in a little fishbowl and, you're topping out, if you will. And when you go, it's, they're all top bananas.
Right.
And not every student should go to Harvard. I mean, we don't push that. You know, we've had students who've gone to West Point and MIT and UPenn, but you know, not everyone needs to go to Harvard, you know.
You want the best school for you.
Right,
not the
that you
best school
fit in.
that's, you know, #1 on the list in USA Today or whatever. You know?
Right. And a lot of them are phony. They fix the numbers.
Yeah.
So that, you know, they really play around with the numbers, if you will, these colleges. So you want to make sure that you are in the best college for you. And used to be, you could take those, you know, the tours, but now they have really refined it to virtual tours. So
Right.
that you get a little bit, I mean, the colleges have really done a great job on this. So you get a feel of what the college is like. And that's important, that you need to feel that this is the place for you, that it supports you, your morals, your, whether, you know, and your mom feels good about you going, you know, it has to feel right. And I think that's so important. It shouldn't be, my dad went to Penn State, or, you know, my grandfather went to Penn State, you know, I'm going to go to Penn State. You have to realize, are you going to survive? Are you going to flourish in a big, huge school like that? Or do you need that small, intimate, you know, caring for you, that you're not a number? Some kids do very, very well in that. And again, we're able to find that with the Berkman. We can find out where you're going to shine. You know, it's just so important that you choose the right college. I took a two grad courses in Penn State. It was just too big for me. I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, but
It was high on my son's list, actually, and we drove. You know, it was COVID; they're closed. This, that, and the other thing. We drove ourselves out there. I had talked to a young man at my work who had graduated from there, so I had like a map and all the things that he had written on it about where we should go look. And we walked around it, and we spent the day there, and we did this and we did that, and it's not on his list anymore.
Right.
Like
that
checked it off, you know.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I've had students, gifted students who went there and absolutely flourished. You know, he went for music. He is actually now on Broadway. You know, he's a pianist, if you will. And, you know, so it's a good fit. And then I've had other students who couldn't do it. So you have to know who you are and where you fit in. Instead, you know, and I think that's important. That
is excellent advice. Having gone to a small intimate college for my undergraduate degree and then going to University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia for my master's degree, I couldn't wait to graduate from Penn. I didn't like the city atmosphere. I didn't like the big classes. I think one of the very best advices that I had gotten was, don't judge the school by the gatekeepers, you know, the people that do you, because if that were the case, I probably would never have gone there, because they truly are the gatekeepers. Once you get past that and you're that you appreciate it, it's a whole different ball game. But those interviews are daunting.
Yeah, and you have to be prepared for them. You have to be prepared. And you went as a grad student. Can you imagine going through this as an undergrad? And that's what we, you know, we also, you know, we talk about the interviews and what they're going to ask you. And they're going to ask you, like, what's your weakness? You know, and if you've never really thought of your, you know, truly thought out your weakness, that could leave you like, you know, but again, we teach you the language. We teach you, this is a weakness, but it's because of a need that's not being met. And so once the student understands everything like that, it makes it is just a wonderful thing for a student to say to an interviewer, when I get stressed out, I can become aggressive, but I understand because I realize a need is not being met. I need more time with assignments, that type of thing. And I think that shows that the interviewer, that the student really has a good handle on who they are, and they will stay in the college. The admissions people want your students to stay there because their ranking actually is dependent on it.
You know, we're talking about four-year graduation. That determines, you know, what your ranking is going to be in the college list. You're going to be number 1, 2, 3. And if you were down there in 30% graduation rate, you're not going to be making these top, 100 schools in these magazines, okay?
Right.
And so they want kids who are going to graduate,
Right.
and they're going to make a lot of money when they graduate, and they will give money back to the college. That's what it's all about.
Mhm.
They want those endowments to grow. I mean, that's why Moravian can give you money. I'm sure they have a very big endowment of people, alumni,
Right.
who give on a regular basis. Okay.
Right.
If you don't graduate there, you're not going to give money back to
Right.
them.
Mhm.
Okay.
And,
So,
and I have to say that that is one thing that I noticed with, when I went to Lafayette with Moravian, Hannah going to Moravian, they have incredible alumni events
Mhm.
to massage
Mhm.
the alumni to give
Mhm.
funds so that they can go after students that they really want and make it
And right.
easier for them
Right.
to be able to go there.
I'll tell you something funny. You know when the last time I got my alumni call for money? It was
When-
the day after Connor got accepted.
Oh, of course.
Give me a little chuckle, I said to the gal who was doing, because they have kids call you.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
their kids call you. I said to her, "Oh, my such," she was so excited. She even wrote it on the little pledge card she sent me. So it's like, it's a never-ending cycle with a private college
It
because
is.
you're
It is.
always in their sights. Tom, this is a question probably for you on the money side. Do you get into it with kids about looking at what they're planning on doing and how much it costs to get the degree and how much they're going to make once they're done? Like, to make sure the school they're picking has the program that they're going to do that's going to make sense with what their job's going to be at the end of it. I mean, if you're going to have, let's be honest, to go to Moravia, it's $250,000 for 4 years. It's $250,000 to go. If you're paying cash, it's $250,000. Yeah, of course, no, we're not paying that, but but some kids are in some places for some schools.
Mhm.
Do you talk to them about the education that makes sense for the education and the education debt that's going to make sense for the job that they're going to
well, yeah, and that pretty much comes off of the what Maria does with the career. I mean, if we've sent kids to look at Lafayette because they give 100% of the
Right.
need. They give a lot of money. But to answer your question, if we recommend somebody for for this career, and Maria sends them to these sites that we work with that will tell you exactly how much you will
Right.
make in that career,
Right.
and what's the job growth for that career, they know that
Yeah.
they're not going to be looking for a second job because of
Right.
the career that they have.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it all works together, with the career and the major and the college. And if we send them to a college that is not going to work for them, then they're going to drop out. It's
Well,
just
and
nature.
that incredible debt on your, once you have to start paying it. If
Oh, yeah.
then you get married and you want to buy a house,
Right.
they look at that. I have had many clients that have had issues getting a loan for their house because, they have this incredible debt from college. And
Right.
if it's both sides, then it's like
Right.
impossible. So I think that a lot of students, when they're going into college, they don't think about the implication of after they're out of school,
Mhm.
how it can lives.
Right. And, not to get into the weeds here too much, but you also mentioned that, and it's kind of related to what you just said. We had an interview with somebody very recently who was coming out of college, 4 years. She's graduating next month. And she has no idea what she's going to do for work. No idea whatsoever. She's got an $85,000 loan from a pretty big school down in DC. And we were talking to her about, how we can help her, but she was just so in a fog, kind of.
Right.
You can tell that she was kind of depressed about it, as she should be, I guess. But that's very, very common. And unless you plan your work and work your plan, those 4 years or 5 years go by very quickly.
Well, and I know, when I was coming out of high school, not everybody went to college. I didn't go to college out of high school. I worked, and I didn't go to college until I was in my early 40s. That's not for everyone. It happened to work for me. But, I think that there have been parents that just push kids into college because they think that's, necessarily the next step where they're supposed to go. And maybe that isn't the right path for them.
I
Because
I think there's a lot in that mix though, Sarah, because, I graduated in 1989 and I went to Moravian College in the early 90s. And when I
right.
was in high school, my guidance counselor helped me figure out what I wanted to do. I
Mhm.
have not seen that with my son.
No.
Well, it's the thing about, I will, as a retired teacher, I've seen how guidance counselors are really so overwhelmed. They have over 400 students on their caseload, and what's happening is that they are tending to bleeding, hemorrhaging kids,
Mhm.
family problems, drug problems. I mean, you name it, they deal with it.
Mhm.
So what happens is the college or the career gets a very, very
Wow.
lick and a split, right? Even if they have a class on it, it's usually you have
Mhm.
like 30 kids in the class, and the teacher is up there and they're in front of computers, and you're missing that one-on-one, that digging, those questionings. And I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I know people are angry because they feel that there are too many guidance counselors, but having worked in the system, I see they are burnt out. I mean, it is you cannot believe the stuff that they actually do, which is one of the
I
reasons
know. I know.
why we do it.
One of my younger sisters is actually a guidance counselor in a local
Okay.
district. And I mean, really what she is a social worker.
Yes, yes.
That's what she is. She's a social worker. She deals with kids that are in homes filled with drugs, with no
Right.
food, no money,
Mhm.
theft, abuse. She had one little boy that she was trying to get him stuff and he's like, I can't take this stuff home because my mom will sell it.
Right. I mean, yeah.
That's they're doing that. They're not their name shouldn't be guidance counselor anymore because they're not guiding. They're doing social work.
You're right.
Well,
I mean, that we've had students, when I was working, we had students that were on the ADD drugs,
mhm.
and what happened is the parents would be taking the drugs and the kid would still be coming into school non-medicated, and you can tell. And he was very blunt. He was a little middle schooler, and he said, my mom has taken, my drugs. So, so there is a problem there,
Well,
and what
I know.
that's what
I,
we do. That's
I
why
wish
we do what we do.
I wish there had been
Mhm.
people, companies like you when I had come out of high school, because my guidance counselor told me that I was just an average student, that I was not, I wasn't really college material. And I graduated with honors from both colleges, college and university. But the point is that, you know, you're right. They are so overwhelmed. There was 585 kids in my graduating class. So, they couldn't know each student. They couldn't know each circumstance. And I wanted to go to, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to be in the medical field. I really wanted to do something like that with my life. And I was so discouraged that, I went into retail sales and, became a jeweler. you know, but because had been so put down in my teenage years. And I think that's, if nothing else, that's really the story for tonight, is that people should, if you have a child that wants to do something with their life,
Right.
have them meet with college counselor.
Right.
Go have the test, see where they fall, because what happens is that so many years of your life are kind of left hanging because you're searching for this career that you want to do, something that you're smart enough and you're good enough, but if you don't know what path you should be on,
Absolutely.
you lose a lot of years in your life.
Absolutely. And you can miss it totally. I mean, you
You
could just
can.
total, and that's the sadness of it all. Is that
Yes.
we have a lot of people that are not being fulfilled,
Mhm.
and but that's what we try to do. And as I said, we deal with, our test is from 14 years old, even into adulthood, until 99 years old.
That's great.
We can help you straighten out and figure out where you're going, and chart your journey. I
Right.
mean, that's what's important to us. And that's why Tom and I really do what we do. We have that passion for it.
So tell people how they get in touch with you, what your fees are, you know, how they get started with you, because I'm sure that there are people out there asking, you know, how do I get in touch with these people? What do we have to pay? What do we have to do?
Well, they can get in touch with us either by email, and that would be Maria@careercollegecounselors.com. That's Maria@careercollegecounselors.com. Or you can call us, and the phone would be 570-460-4855. And you don't have to speak. You can just actually leave a text. And we always say the first meeting that we have is free consultation. We'll tell you, we can tell if this is something that you want, and you can tell if we're the right fit, because it's not going to work if we don't fit together. And
we can't help everybody, that's for sure.
Right.
It does take work.
Right.
And it takes work on the students' part, and some students just don't want to work. I mean, we see that pretty quickly. But I mean, if you want to work and the parents want to put the time in, we can get it done. And it's nice to work with people who are happy about it, and who want to get things done, and who have the same, vision as we have, as far as, getting into the right college and the right career. As far as cost, there's a couple of different costs we can have, but if we do the Berkman by itself, that's $595 with follow-up with Maria, one-on-one with Zoom, and additional. She can do additional meetings one-on-one to do that passion project that comes off of the Berkman. Okay.
Right. And honestly, that is so reasonable given the amount that it will save on the other. If your child is going to college and it's in a career path that they just absolutely hate, you've lost all of that money for their schooling.
Right.
I just got a bill for not a bill, but an estimate for 4 new tires for my car, and that's over $600. So, people have no problem paying that kind of money for a plumber to come in and fix something, or 4 new tires, but they'll think also 3 times about, holy smokes, I got to pay this to help my kid get out of college. But that's the way of the world. But it is very reasonable.
Yeah, and we give very, very personalized service. We're there. We help with. We just have a great great program, and I can't tell you how proud I am of it.
Well, it sounds so nice because it's personalized. You're not some big online company somewhere where you're typing in the information, they're going to spit it back out at you, and that's all you get. I mean, you're really
like
real people that are passionate about what you do, and people are, when they sign up with you guys, they're going to get their money's worth because it's real. It's not. I see so many consulting varieties of things that are online, and people pay so much money for it and think they're getting this great deal, and they just aren't. When you can talk to real people about this stuff, I am in the process of sending my son off to college. The more real people I can talk to about stuff, the better, and I think
it's true.
Your kid is in 9th, 10th, 11th grade and needs help because you don't know what to do, they don't know what to do. I mean, I have a son, my son has a friend who's single parent. The kid doesn't know what he's doing. Guidance is as helpful as they are. And, my son actually went and helped him fill out his Common App. There's all kinds of kids out there. So it's like, if you have a kid that really needs a little bit of help, check them out.
Thank you.
You can definitely put in your contact information in the comments below and that email that you gave out. And we'll make sure all your information's there so that people can get in touch with you quickly.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us. It's always enjoyable to see you charming 2 ladies.
Well, this is one of those topics that people have to talk about a little bit more. I think, nobody wants to talk about their finances. Nobody wants to talk about money. Nobody wants to talk about, the reality of higher education until sometimes it's too late. So get going early is our best advice, and check out Maria and Tom's program if you need help. And I'm telling you, you need help. You need help. You might think you don't need help
until you get into the throes of it, and then it's
until you get into the throes of it. You need a therapist. for yourself after you're done, because it's so horrible. You
But this too shall pass, though. You have to remember that.
It will. I know that. I know. But if you could get some help with it, it's a really great idea. So we really enjoyed having you on. This was a great topic. We enjoyed everything about this. If you have any questions for Maria and Tom, we will have their contact information listed below, and you can contact them directly. We want to thank our sponsor, My Girl Managed Services. If your business needs a little oomph in your social media, your web presence, your Google listing, make sure you check out Jen and her staff over at My Girl Managed Services. She helps new and existing businesses get a little bump in their social media and their presence out there. So everybody, we hope you stay safe. We will be back next week with Dr. Ranju Gupta. We are at the end of the month, believe it or not, and we will be having our next health chat. It's going to be a fun topic that everybody loves. We're going to be talking about colorectal examinations and colon cancer month. So, it's going to be a fun topic. It's going to be one of those chats, so we'll see you again next week. Everybody stay safe and happy. We are so glad to be here with you every Sunday night with that